הנתונים בצרה ובשביה, העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה. From the top. אחינו כל בית ישראל, אחינו כל בית ישראל, הנתונים בצרה ובשביה, העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה. המקום ירחם, ירחם עליהם ויוציאם מצרה, לרווחה ומייפל ליאורה, ומשיב עוד לגאולה שתה בגלה ובזמן קריב. המקום ירחם, ירחם עליהם ויוציאם מצרה, לרווחה ומייפל ליאורה, ומשיב עוד לגאולה שתה בגלה ובזמן קריב. אחינו, back to the beginning. Try it with us. אחינו כל בית ישראל, אחינו כל בית ישראל, הנתונים בצרה ובשביה, העומדים בין בים ובין We'll continue on page 142 with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharei, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Bochem לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, מלך מלאכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ברכוני לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, מלך מלאכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. צאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, ממלך מלאכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So, Mark, I owe Rabbi Brown $20 because I bet that you were going to sit in your normal seat as you always do. Really, to look over there and see you there is kind of blowing my mind. I'm not sure my mic is on. Can you hear me okay? Okay. This morning I was at Talmud Torah for their Remembrance Day ceremony and was asked to give a brief Devar Torah about the significance of Remembrance Day and connecting it to this Shabbat. And I just want to share with you briefly what I shared with the children there, because not that it was particularly profound, but I think that it's a reminder for all of us. The challenge with Remembrance Day for children and even for us as adults is that we're being asked to remember something largely that we didn't experience. How to remember something that you never experienced. But our people, that has been the story and the history and very much the lessons of our existence as Jews. We remember the exodus from Egypt. Having walked through narrow places, we're commanded to recognize pharaohs in every age. We're reminded of the destruction of the first and the second temple. We're reminded of that at wedding ceremonies when we break a glass. We're reminded time and again throughout history and throughout the Jewish calendar of moments when our people were in peril. To look at those moments, to see them also through the lens of present day and present tense. And to understand that the sorrow and the suffering and the challenge and then also the perseverance and the survival of the Jewish people that happened in that era can happen again. The purpose of memory in Judaism is both to honor the past but also to inspire us in the present. And so in the context of all that is going on in the world, and in particularly in the Jewish world and in Israel and in Gaza right now, we are reminded that our people are strong, that in spite of everything, we are still here, and that even though there are calamities and atrocities that have occurred over these past 5 weeks that remind us of the darkest days of Jewish history, things that we wanted to blot out from our memory, the knowledge that we survived those, that we learned from them, that we established a state and a people and a religion and a custom and a practice and values that have informed and inspired the world and infuriated others, is lesson enough and a reminder enough that Remembrance Day, for its secular context but also its Jewish context, is a sacred and holy day. It reminds us, as we say in Jewish tradition, that memory is a blessing. And so today, may we remember and remember for blessing this evening. We'll continue on page 121, if you'd like. We're going to ask Alicia and Sandy and Gideon to come forward to help us light the Shabbos candles and first to lead us in a reading. The reading's on the card.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. So we begin our service now with psalms that are part of this Kabbalat Shabbat kind of prelude to the Mariv service, recalling all of those Kabbalists at Tzfat, Safed, who would go out into the fields under the night sky to bring in Shabbat every Friday night. We start on page 130 with Lechu Neranena. And just as it is so wonderful to have us all filling this space with our presence tonight, we encourage you to sing along with us. If you don't know the words, you can always say Yalalai. That works too. Lechu neranena l'Adonai nariya letzorishenu nekad b'fanav betodah bizmirot nariya lo yalalai lai lai yalalai lai lai yalalai lai yalalai yalalai lai 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 yalalai lai lai yalalai lai lai yalalai lai yalalai yalalai lai 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 yalalai lai lai yalalai lai lai yalalai lai yalalai yalalai lai lai yalalai lai lai yalalai lai lai yalalai lai yalalai lai. Page 131, Psalm 96. Shirul Adonai, Shir Chadash, Shirul Adonai, Kol Haaretz, Shirul Adonai, Baruch Shemo, Basro miyom leyom, Yeshuato, Sapru b'goyim kevodo, Bechol ha'amim nifleotav, Ki gadol Adonai, Umulav me'od, Norau, Al kol Elohim, Ay, 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 yalai, lalai, lai, yalai, lalai, lai, yalai, lalai, lai, ay, lalai, yalalai, yalai, lalai, lai, yalai, lalai, lai, yalai, lalai, lai, ay, lalai, yalalai, yalai, lalai, lai, yalalai, yalalai, yalai, lalai, lai, yalalai, lai, lai, ay, lai, 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 yai, lai, 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 yai, lai, 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 yai, lai, lai, lai. We're going to turn to page 134 for Psalm 98. Zamru l'Adonai b'chinor. We sing to Adonai with every instrument we have. Zameru l'Adonai b'chinor, b'chinor v'kol zimra. Zameru l'Adonai b'chinor, b'chinor v'kol zimra. Zameru, zamru l'Adonai. Zameru, zamru l'Adonai. turn now to Lechadodi, the peak of our Kabbalat Shabbat service, page 138. Verse 2, Likrat Shabbat, Lecho v'nelcha, ki hi mekor hameracha, merosh mikedem lezocha, sof maaseh b'machshavat tchila, olecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela, olecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Verse 3, Mikdash melech, ir melucha, kumitzei mitoch ha'pecha, Rav לשבת במקבחה, ואויך עמול עלייך חמלה, הולך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה, הולך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Verse 5, Hitoreri, Hitoreri, Ki naorech kumbi ori, Uri, Uri, Shir daveri, Kevod Adonai alayich tigla, Olecha dodi likrat kala, Bnei Shabbat nekavela, Olecha dodi likrat kala, Bnei Shabbat nekavela.
It's different when he sits in the back. We rise and face him.
Boi v'shalom, ateret malach, gam besimcha u'betolah, toch emunei am segula, boi chala, facing front. Last time, all together. Olecha dodi likrat kala, bnei Shabbat nekavela, Olecha dodi likrat kala, bnei Shabbat nekavela.
Please be seated.
So we're going to turn to page 140 for Tsadik Katamar, which you can find on the bottom half of Psalm 92. And this is might be a familiar melody by Louis Lewandowski. And I always bring this out this time of year because this week, among all the different things we're commemorating, is also the 85th anniversary of Kristallnacht. Some of you may have been at the BI last night for their commemoration event. And so I like to throw in a melody that exemplifies the type of synagogue music that would have been heard in the European synagogues of the early 20th century, including this piece, which we still sing because it's a beautiful melody. So it's one small way to kind of keep the memory of those who were destroyed in the Holocaust, whose lives and communities were destroyed, alive. Tsadik Katamar Yifrach Keres Balvanon Iseh Shetuli Beveit Adonai Bechatzrot Eloheinu Yavrichu Od Yenuvo Beseva Beshenim Berananim Yiu Lehagi Ki Asher Adonai Suri Velo
We turn to page 263. As we rise for Tsadik Kaddish, we want to ask Joe to join us on the bimah to help lead the rest of our service.
Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabba ve'almadi v'achirotei ve'amlich malchutei v'chayechot uvyomechot uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael bagala ובזמן קריב ואימרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילם עם כל ברכתה ושירתה Tushmechata v'nechemata Daviran ve'alma ve'imeru Amen.
Baruchu et Adonai hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed.
Please be seated. Continue on page 265, Ma'ariv Aravim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bivaro Ma'ariv Aravim v'chokhmah bateach sharim uvuna me'aseh etim umahalif et hazmanim umahaseder et hakovavim b'mishmirotehem barakia kirtzono borei yom v'layla Golel or mipnei hoshech, ve'hoshech mipnei or, mavir yom uvein laila, mavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai savot shavo, El hai v'yam, tamidim lochalenu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, hamariv aravim. Avat olam avta Torah u'mitzvot hukim u'mishmatim otanu limadeta Elkein Adonai Eloheinu v'shokbeinu uvkumeinu nasiach v'hukeha V'nismach v'divrei v'horatecha uv'mitzvotecha leolam leolam va'ed ki hem hayenu ve'ore yamenu uvahem nege yoman ve'layla ve'ahavata al tisir mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Ve'afta et Adonai Elecha v'chol levacha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anohi metzaveha hayom lalevaveha v'shinatam levadecha v'dibar Veshivtecha v'veitzecha u'lecha v'derech u'shofrecha u'vkumecha u'kshartam leot ayadecha ve'yod totafot beininecha u'ktavtam amizot beitecha u'risharecha leman tiskaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotaim V'tem kedoshim Elohem, Ani Adonai Elohem, Asher hotzetehem me'eretz Mitzrayim, v'hiot lachem le'olim, Ani Adonai Elohem.
Adonai Elohim Emet.
Page 270, Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osef ele, nora tehilot osef ele. Malchutecha ra'u banecha, בוקע הים לפני משה ומרים זה לינו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני Ga'al Yisrael Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Vehamidenu Shomreinu Lechayim Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, haporeh sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
So at Temple Shalom, Friday night services are always at 8 o'clock, no matter what. I mean, there's a few exceptions, but pretty much always at 8. Though this time of year, this first Shabbat after daylight savings, I think we are reminded of this real shift in time, this way in which all of a sudden it gets dark so fast, so early. And even though, maybe we don't worry so much about the actual technical halachic start of Shabbat, we are reminded that there is a blessing, I think, in being able to just let go a little sooner in the day on Fridays, to just be able to enter into this time that we need so much right now, to be able to just say, I'm just going to be in my community. I'm just going to be with my family. I'm going to unplug. I'm going to just allow myself to be. And so for that gift of entering into Shabbat, particularly this week, we give thanks as we sing together Vishamru, page 272.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat la'asor et HaShabbat לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם
We rise together now as we prepare for the Amidah, page 273.
Adonai Sfatai Tiftach Adonai Sfatai Tiftach Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzhak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora Elyon Gomel Hasadim Tovin Bekonei Hakol Bechoseros De Avot Ve'imavot Umevigula Livnei V'nehem Leman Shemo Ve'alava Melech Ozer Umashia Umagen Baruch atah Adonai Megen Avraham Bezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechaye Metim Atah Rav Le'oshia Ma'ashiv HaRuach Umarid HaGashem Mechalel Ha'im Behesed Mechaye Metim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofer Holim Umatmir Asurim Umakayen Emunato Lishenei Afar Mihamohal Bal Gevrut Umidom Lehar Melech Meit Umehayer ומצמיר ישוע, מהמעתה מחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יעללוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. Yasher Koach, Joe. Very well done. We are going to continue on page 278. I invite you, if you choose, to join with me in this English reading. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may we all live in such a way that this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amecha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'avat tekabel u'tehile ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael. Yisrael Amecha El Karov Lechol Korav Penei El Avadecha V'choneinu Shefoch Ruchacha Aleinu V'techezena Eineinu V'shuvecha leTzion Berachamim Baruch atah Adonai Amachazir Shechinato
the blessings of each day, each week, we come together in this prayer of gratitude. The words on page 280, 4 lines from the bottom, V'al nisecha.
V'al nisecha shebechol yom erev avoker v'tzorayim me'olam kivinu lach me'olam kivinu lach hatov ki lo chalu rachamecha v'hamrachem ki lo tamo chasadecha me'olam kivinu lach me'olam kivinu lach.
So we come to Shalom Rav on page 282. We've been thinking, of course, a lot about shalom in Israel. We've been thinking about peace and wanting it for all people, Israelis, Palestinians. I think this week in particular, I'm thinking a lot about seeking shalom here. I'm thinking about all of the tension that we have seen in our streets in Canada, in Vancouver, in our own lives. I know that all of us feel so much the weight of the world right now, and that perhaps if we can think about prayer as this aspiration of what we want in our lives, in our world, that we can start here inside of us, inside our community, and let that emanate out into the world. So let's join together in this prayer of peace.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata Melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata Melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol eit ubechol shah bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Take a few moments now for silent prayer.
Yehi ulatzon imrefi, ve'yon libi lefanecha. Adonai tzori, Adonai tzori.
We turn now to the Mishaberach on page 371. We join in our prayer of healing for all of those in our extended community. We are thinking of the Shabbat, including Yosef ben Michael Miriam, Ian Penn, Carol Plotkin, Howard Eckersley, Stephanie Stanberg, Agnes Roberts-Klinghoffer, Marilyn Perrin, Adele, Bruce Howitt, Jason Stanley Fox, Virginia Edwards, Nini Rostaker-Shipman, Mayor Leb Ben Yosef, Yeshayahu, Natalie Wormelli, Mayor Tzvi, Mayor Zalman Ben Rachel, Daniel Gottesman, Bill Shaw, Claire Golumbia, Carla Zivit, Janet Gelb, David Shlomo Gorney, and Andrea Yarzbiak. And if there are other people you're thinking of, if you'd like to include their names, I invite you to rise and share them out loud at this time.
Sheberach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Le'imotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Now, my honor to invite our temple president, Dan Steiner, to share some announcements and greetings.
Thank you very much, and welcome everyone. These announcements are also in your Temple Happenings Bulletin. Join the community, Bring Them Home Now March and Rally on Sunday, November 12th at 2 p.m. at the Vancouver Art Gallery. Join for a community-wide Havdalah gathering on Saturday, November 18th at 6:30 at Beth Tikva in Richmond. Seniors are invited to our next Shalom Shishim Lunch and Learn on Thursday, November 21st at noon for Exploiting Brain Plasticity to Improve Life with Dr. Lara Boyd, the director of the UBC Brain Behavior Lab. The Tikkun Olam Go-Go's present Voices for Africa on Wednesday, November 22 at 6:30. Enjoy the joyful music of the Universal Gospel Choir, a marketplace, pre-concert reception with wine bar and complimentary appetizers, and after-concert complimentary desserts, tea and coffee, with all the proceeds to benefit the Stephen Lewis Grandmothers Campaign. The Men's Club presents a night of wine tasting with my uncle Norman Gladstone on Thursday, November 23rd at 7 p.m. Norman entered the import wine business with his own company, Gladstone and Company Wine Imports, and later partnered with International Cellars, where he remained until his retirement. And finally, raise a glass and help create a better world together. Join for Pints for a Purpose, Sisterhood's Fall Fest fundraiser on Saturday, November 25th at 7 p.m. Sip, socialize, dance to a live band, play trivia for prizes, bid on silent auction treasures, and stay tuned for more prizes. All funds raised go to the Sisterhood Social Action Programming, and proceeds of the silent auction go directly to support vital charities on the ground in Israel. So lots going on, and please come out and enjoy, and Mazel Tov.
Shabbat Shalom. In a moment, I'm going to invite our speaker to give the drosh tonight, but I just wanted to take a moment to share one thing, in part because she's only said she was speaking for like 7 minutes, so I've got, in rabbi time, I've got lots of time. I had a conversation on Tuesday night at the vigil that gave me some pause. A person in our community came up to me in tears, crying about a friendship, a deep and personal friendship that they had that was falling apart because of the conflict between Israel and Hamas. And that this person who was their friend, who is their friend, they were not seeing eye to eye on the situation, and the conflict that was pulling people apart there was pulling them apart here. And I've had that conversation, and I'm sure Rabbi Brown and Cantor Cohen have as well, many, many times with different people over these past 5 weeks. And I want to share with you, because you may be having those conversations or those experiences, what I shared that evening, not because it's particularly profound, but maybe because it's important. We're not going to solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict here in Vancouver. But if we're not careful, as we have seen, and as Rabbi Brown alluded to, we can bring it here to Vancouver, not just to our streets, but into our relationships, into our friendships, into our homes. And so what I encouraged them to do that evening was to go back to their friend and have a conversation based on values, not on geopolitical issues. Find the things that you agree upon. Find the values that you share. You both believe that children should be safe in their beds. You both believe that families should be able to feel safe and secure in their homes. You both believe that people living anywhere should be able to be free from terror, free from bombs, and free from rockets and missiles. And maybe that's all that you agree upon. And maybe the solutions to that elude you just as they elude the Israelis and the Palestinians right now. But you're friends because you share values. And so allow the conversation to just rest there. See what you agree upon. It's a model not only for us here, but of course it's a model for them there as well. And we can perhaps help achieve that there by showing that we can do it here. Don't let this war, don't let this conflict create war and conflict and more division in our community, in our homes, in your relationships. That would give the terrorists yet another victory. Again, not particularly profound perhaps, but important. Every year for the last few years, it has been our privilege to welcome Lieutenant Colonel Andrea Tuca, who's a member of our congregation, daughter of a Holocaust survivor, to be here, to share with us her reflections as a member of the Canadian Forces on active duty. As Lieutenant Colonel Tuca will share with you, she is a clinical professor at UBC. She works intimately with members of our Canadian Forces who have gone through the trauma and the ordeals of combat and what they have brought home with them and the challenges of mental health in our age. And we welcome you again this evening, Lieutenant Colonel Tuca. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi Dan, for the invitation. It is a great honor to participate in the Remembrance Day's commemorative service at Temple Shalom once again. To begin with, I would like to acknowledge the memory of Mr. Alan Kay, a World War II veteran who shared his thoughts with this congregation on Remembrance Day year after year, until his death in 2020 at age of 96. I salute Mr. Reuben Sinclair, member of the Sharat Tzedek Synagogue, who was the oldest Canadian World War II veteran and the country's oldest man until he passed away in August at the remarkable age of 112. Mr. Sinclair served in the Royal Canadian Air Force with the challenging task of training bomber pilots to safely land in the dark on blackout runways. I also recognize Ben Mizrahi, who proudly served as a medic in the Israeli Defense Forces and tragically lost his young life in the horrific terrorist attack in Israel on 7th of October. And I would like to acknowledge all the veterans and the families of veterans of this congregation. 28 years ago, when I arrived to Canada from Hungary, one of the first things I learned was how significant Remembrance Day was for Canadians. I found it sweet and inspiring to see the young cadets as they stood in front of the local Safeway store offering puppies to passers-by in the days prior to Remembrance Day. And often, there would be an elderly veteran by their sides. I found very touching that too. It was moving to see and feel how important it was for Canadians to honor their fallen soldiers by wearing a puppy from the last days of October until the 11th of November. At the time, I did not think that a few years later, I would start my medical career in the Canadian Armed Forces and I would be proudly pinning a poppy on my own uniform. I did not think that soon, in 2004, I would be laying a wreath for my fellow Canadian soldiers who lost their lives during the mission in Afghanistan, just before my turn to serve in Kabul. I did not think that from 2009, as a military psychiatrist, I would be listening to soldiers' experiences and helping them overcome the extensive and complex emotional consequences of the traumatic events they faced while fighting in wars or serving in peacekeeping missions. And I did not think that I would go back to Afghanistan for a second deployment and have to deal with the tragic deaths of 3 of our medics, who saved many soldiers' lives and made my daily job easier with their dedicated service. Their names were Andrew Eikelenboom, who was killed at age of 23, Andrew Miller at age of 21, and Crystal Griesbrecht at age of 35. Their young lives were brutally ended by improvised explosive devices, the deadly weapon of that conflict. After my service in Afghanistan, seeing and wearing the poppy has a far deeper meaning to me. And I quickly realized that the days and weeks around Remembrance Day are very challenging for many soldiers, sailors, airmen and airwomen, especially for those who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder related to their military service. Reflecting and remembering on Remembrance Day can bring up the painful memories and devastating feelings of losing a comrade, a fellow soldier, a friend. Many of you will know that the poppy's origin as a symbol of remembrance lies on the grounds of World War I. On the fields and wilderness of the Western Front in Europe, the enormous artillery bombardments infused the chalk soils with lime, which was a great fertilizer. The poppies thrived in that environment, and their colors stood out against the blasted terrain and mass graves. That flower provided Canadian military physician Dr. John McCrae with inspiration for his poem, In Flanders Field, which he wrote while serving in Ypres in 1915. He wrote it after witnessing the death of his friend and fellow soldier the day before. The poppy flower is a short-lived perennial, but its prolific self-seeding abilities give the perseverance of a wildflower. Its creep-like blooms look fragile, yet they easily withstand drought conditions and can grow in poor soil. It is a wonderful metaphor for the resilience needed by a soldier. However, there is a more unfortunate metaphor as well. It's hard not to associate the poppy's red petals with blood and its black center with death. But the symbolism I like the most is found in the poppy's bright green stem, representing new life and hope for peace, which is more important now than ever. In closing, Remembrance Day is an opportunity to remember those who paid the ultimate price of armed conflicts and lost their lives. Remembrance Day also provides an opportunity to thank those who currently serve, as well as the families whose contribution make continuous service possible. Therefore, I would like to end by thanking my husband and my family, both in Canada and Hungary, for supporting me during my more than 23 years of service. Shabbat Shalom.
Lieutenant Colonel Tuca, we thank you for your service to our nation and to our people. In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from falling hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. Please rise for the last post. We'll remain standing, page 586 for Elenu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגופי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מגנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום בהשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת, אין עוד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, Bayom ha'hu yeh Adonai echad, Ushemo echad.
Please be seated. A reading before the Mourner's Kaddish, page 597. Yizkor, we remember. Remember our people who suffered and died so that we could be free and secure. May their memory be more than a distant shadow. For their dreams left unfulfilled and lives taken too soon, we remember. Remember our brothers and sisters whose sacrifice kept the dream of democracy and justice alive. May their courage be our inspiration and strength. For life cut short and vision unrealized, we remember. Remember the fallen of our armed forces, our armed services, the victims of terror and tragedy. May the darkness of their loss not obscure the light of peace. They were in love with our land and in love with life. For the agony, the tears, the mothers and the fathers, for the children who were and the children yet to be, we remember. On this Shabbat, we recall those who died during this past week or these past 30 days, whose families are in the midst of Shiva and Shloshim. As I read the name of your loved one, if you could please rise and remain standing. Asko Anis, Sanford Cohen, Dr. Earl David Harden, Michael Jacobson, Julian Carney, Ben Mizrahi, and those for whom the Yortzeit, the anniversary of the death of your loved one, is on this Shabbat, if you two could rise as I read their name. Ron Babbins, Thomas Edgar Blum, Nathan Buhler, Mira Chochinov, Sadie Cohen, Jules Coheen, Harry Dunbar, Bob Feldstein, Sonia Givatamacher, Melanie Gold, John Henry, Elizabeth Horowitz, Doreen Irving, Peter Cantor, Alan Karlinski, Samuel Lampert, Joseph Leffert, Jean Lichtenstein, Nathan Lipson, Faye Manis, Israel Marcus, Esther Mattis, Beatrice Michaelberg, Benjamin Moyles, Nellie Nash, Mary Ognestov, Sophie Ostrov, Pepe Ozier, Nancy Paris, Elizabeth Rakin, Eddie Reich, Ben Rosenbaum, Meyer Rotem, Alice Sangro, Lou Simkin, Ephraim Smith, Rose Springman, Gertrude Steinhardt Weinberg, Elsie Switzer, Boris Temeskovich, Victoria Twombly, Fagel Unterman, Ted Wilmot, Shmuel Zeberman. If there's names I've missed or mispronounced, or if you've come to say Kaddish for any other reason, if you could rise and call their names out as well. We look around our congregation, we see those that have stood in mourning. We don't want them to stand alone, so we'll stand now by their side, providing the comfort of our presence. We recall all of those who've died in defense of freedom and justice, victims of terror in this land, the land of Israel, around the world. Those who died in the Shoah, who have no family left to remember them. We recall them for blessing as well, page 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, B'yoma divrach yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei l'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'yimaru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei omaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'rechu. Elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, damiron ve'alma v'imaru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imaru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, huya aseh shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'kol yoshvei tevel, v'yimaru. Amen.
Amen.
May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, comfort the bereaved among us, and we say together, Amen. Remain standing for a moment as we invite Joe to join us over here to lead us in Kiddush and Motzi. Is your grandpa coming too? And Robert's going to help him with that. Cantor Cohen's going to help both of them with that.
Okay. Open it. 120. You got it? Put this up here. Who wants to hold the Kiddush cup? Okay. Got it? You want to hold that? There you go.
Vayahulu hashamayim ve'aretz v'chol savaim v'ahel Elohim b'yom hashvi'i malchuto asher asa v'yishbot b'yom hashvi'i mikol malachto asher asa v'yireh Elohim et yom hashvi'i v'kadesh oto ki v'shavot mikol malachto asher bara Elohim la'asot.
You can take over now, Grandpa.
Give him the sheet.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei v'hagafen.
Amen.
What?
Keep going. Keep
We got
going.
more.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshah b'mitzvotav v'ratzav v'shabbat kadsho b'avav v'ratzon hilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom tehillah mikvei kodesh zecher l'tzias Mitzrayim
Kivanu v'charta ve'otanu kidasha mikol ha'amim ve'shavat koshecha ve'ahava uvratzon kinhaltanu.
Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat.
Amen. Now you can drink.
L'chaim.
Again, why not?
L'chaim.
Hi,
Uncover
okay.
the challah. It's a challah.
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. It's yours now.
Challah.
There you go. Have some challah.
We'll remain standing for Hatikva and then our closing song.
Kol balevav v'nima nefesh Yehudi homiya ufate mizrach kadima ayin lezion Sophia. Yerushalayim liotam chofshi be'atzeinu eretz Zion Yerushalayim Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen yaseh shalom shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael yaseh shalom shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
We invite you to join us in our social hall for our own egg, sponsored by the grandparents of our bar mitzvah, Robert and Alicia, Mark and Sandy. And there were so many sweets, they had to put them in our office, so I've tasted a few. It's
They
delicious.
smell so good.
Please join us there. Tomorrow morning services begin at 10 a.m. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.